It's a perfect script for Keyonte George's bounce back, and it's next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. And there's now a Locked on Jazz daily newsletter you can get at lockedondaily.com. That's free. Goes in your inbox every midday as well. Hope you enjoyed Empty the Noggin yesterday. To the everydayers out there who've been Empty the Noggin from the very beginning, thank you for being back and hope that fired you up to get it back. I haven't figured out what I do about Empty the Noggin tonight. I don't have a newsletter coming out. Maybe I'll put it on our YouTube community page or something like that. All right, here's what we're going to do today. We'll opening night thoughts, because if the league goes as it did the opening night, I look really brilliant, and I'm not about to bypass that opportunity to tell you that. So I got one day here where I look really, really good. So I'm going to make sure that I promote myself at the end of this and make you think I'm really smart. Hell of a quote by Nikola Jokic after Denver's loss to Oklahoma City yesterday. We'll touch on that. Walker, Kessler, and Taylor Hendricks need to meet the reliability meters or reliability tiers tonight. 4 defensive plays that cost the Jazz the win against Memphis, none of which are really easy to figure out what you're supposed to do. It's a good example of how hard it is to actually play defense in the NBA. We'll look at those on YouTube. I'll break you down through them on the audio version of the show. But we're going to start with Keyonte George bouncing back tonight from a 3 of 18 opening night, 0 of 9 first half. And it's tough. When you go 3 of 18 on the opening night of an NBA season, the spotlight is on you, whether you want it to be or not. We could all say, oh, it's early. And the spotlight is on Keyonte. He goes 3 of 15 tonight, and the spotlight gets even hotter. It's just the reality. And this reminds me of when I lived here in Salt Lake City the first time from 92 to 98. And I had a house in kind of a sandy Midville area. And I actually used to have a bunch of the Buzz, then was the name of the team, players live with me. Frankly, I was 23, non-Mormon, what am I supposed to say now? Non-church member of the Church of Latter-day Saints, and single. And there weren't a lot of those floating around Salt Lake City in 1995. So I actually buddied up with Denny Hawking and Mark Durant and Marty Cordova and a bunch of those guys, and a lot of them live with me. And it was really interesting to be around baseball players when they started a season. So they'd open the year and they'd go for 4, and another night, then 1 for 4, and then 0 for 4. And all of a sudden, they're 1 for 12 to start the season. All of a sudden, they come up to the plate, and on the scoreboard, it says their batting average, and it's 0.85. And they start to press. And I'll never forget a conversation where we had a youngster over at the house. It was a rookie. Denny was in his 2nd or 3rd year with the Bucks at that point. I mean, this kid's like 1 for 8. So he's in that circumstance. I don't remember the exact details. And Denny says to him, hey, tomorrow night, when you come up to the plate, how many hits can you get in your first at-bat? The kid's looking like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, how many hits can you get in your first at-bat? The guy's still looking like, huh? Like, my first at-bat, like, I get 1. Denny's like, yeah, that's it. You can only get 1. So don't try to get 2. Don't try to get 3. And in baseball, what happens is you get in that slump and you're 1 for 8 and you're hitting 125 and you go get that hit. You want to get 3 hits so that you're 4 for 9, but you can't do that. And so that's the first thing for Keyonte tonight, is that he has to not try to get 2 hits on the first at-bat. This is the perfect script for Keyonte to bounce back. There's no team he's played better against than Golden State. And the guard line of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson over the years is probably the reason why. This is a good matchup for him. So last year, we played them in February in the makeup game, and then we played them in April twice. And in February against Golden State, he gets 16 3-point shots off. He makes 9 of them. Draymond's playing drop. He's coming off picks. Klay and Steph are not following a great deal. I don't even actually know who played in each of those, because Klay and Steph didn't play in every game against us last year. And that one was Wiggins, Kuminga, Green, Curry, and Potajemski. And that's the night where Klay came off the bench and torched us for 35 and a 140-137 shootout. But Keyonte gets 33 points. He goes 9 of 16 from the field. He has 6 assists. It's a great game. We see them on April 7th, and this one's Clay, Draymond, Trace Jackson Jr., Chris Paul, and Braden Pajemski. So you have Chris Paul and the youngster Braden Pajemski, who's not a good defensive player, at least statistically, and Klay Thompson. And Keyonte does it again. Keyonte has a huge night. He gets 11 threes off this time. So he's playing in space against these guys, particularly off the bounce space against them, which is what he's best at. Last year on catch and shoot threes, Keyonte shot 32%. On off the bounce threes, he shot 35%. That's where he's going to make his name, is if you get that 32 up to 38 and hold that 35 to 36%, he's big time. And then we played them to close the night 7 games later, and they didn't play Steph again, but they did play Chris Paul and Klay Thompson. And I mean, these are bad defensive players at this point in their career. Klay just can't move like he once did. And he got it again. He went 8 of 11, 5 of 6 from 3, shut it down, I think, early in that one because he only played 20 minutes. So this is the best matchup that Keyonte George could possibly have coming back. And they're not that different. Gary Payton Jr. coming off the bench can defend, and DeAnthony Melton can. But the guys that they're starting, Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, they don't want to pressure. So I don't have the numbers. I probably just realized this morning when I woke up, I could have tried to pull this off, and I will in the future. I was using a program that I hadn't used a part of a program I hadn't used a great deal to find this, but this is really interesting. So against Memphis the other night, for the Jazz as a whole, okay, so I'm going to assume most of these were against Keyonte. They pressured the ball handler, truly hard pressure on the ball handler, on 42 possessions, and on 68 did not. So 42 they did, 68 they did not. On the 42 possessions where they pressured the ball handler, we averaged 0.92 points per possession. On the 68 where they didn't pressure the ball handler, we averaged 1.06. Let me say that again. 1.06 on the 68 non-pressure possessions, and 0.92 on the possessions in which there was a pressure. Okay, that's a considerable difference, right? Obviously, huge difference, and tells you that that's the book. But the Warriors against Portland only pressured on 27 of 136 times. Less than 10%. It's not who they are. It's not how they want to play the game. So you're not going to get that same type of pressure defense from this Warriors team. It's just not, they don't play. In fact, when they did pressure, Portland torched them. The other thing on the Warriors, defensively, they're good. Draymond's good. Draymond's amazing. They're 13th in the half court defensively last year. They're 9th and 12th guarding the pick and roll man and the pick and roll ball handler. They're not brilliant there. They're good, but they're not brilliant. So it's not as though, and specifically in playing pick and roll defense, this is the one to watch. And this is really going to be the maturity of Keyonte tonight. They're going to probably start with Andrew Wiggins on Keyonte, would be my guess. Andrew Wiggins guards the ball handler and pick and roll for the Warriors. That's the way they do it. Last year, Steph Curry guarded 130 pick and rolls with Draymond Green and 130 with Kevon Looney. Andrew Wiggins guarded 217 with Kevon Looney and 192 with Draymond Green. They'd much rather, and they're great. They're all below 1.0. Steph and Draymond are pretty damn good. They've got it figured out. Kevon Looney's really defensively slipped in his numbers. So the thing to watch tonight is on the pick and roll, where is Keyonte getting space? Does he make the right selections for shots? We talked yesterday about his shot selection. Makes it almost impossible for him to have a good night. Tonight, he's going to have good shot selection. Because when he's not pressured, he doesn't get driven into that mid-range shot the same way. So this is a great night for Keyonte to bounce back. All right, 4 defensive plays that I'm going to walk you through with not the greatest expertise of telling you exactly who blew it. It's really hard. This is a great example of why Will Hardy said the other night, when you're out on you cannot simulate the final 5 minutes of a close game in practice at all. It's crazy difficult, because I'm going to show you 4 defensive plays that the Jazz blew against Memphis and cost them the game. There's not an easy answer on much of any of them. It's next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and Linden. I am currently driving the Palisade. I really can't tell you how much I enjoy it. So I have this neat thing where they let me drive a car for a while, and then at a certain mile mark, I'm supposed to turn it back in. I'm at the mile. Don't tell them. I'm at the mile mark with the Palisade, and I just haven't called yet. I don't want to give it back. I have the Ioniq, which is the electric car that we bought as well. Both the kids have a Santa Fe. We have just could not be more pleased with everything we have done with Murdoch Hyundai. If you're looking for a car right now for you, someone in your family, look at the Hyundais. Look at the price. Look at the bells and whistles you get. Look at the safety ratings, and then you decide whether it's the right look for you. But if you're going to go down there, make sure you email me first at dlock09@gmail.com so that I can give you the VIP treatment you deserve by being a Locked On everydayer. That's at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get 20%, $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks is your daily fantasy leader. You can now win up 100 times your money. Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. This is so fun. You just play daily fantasy. Each day, find the players you care about. Find about the items that you think are going to be there. Do you think Keyonte George is bouncing back tonight? And whatever his point number is, you go over or under. Do you think that we're going to see a breakout night from Victor Wembanyama after he went 5 of 18 next time he goes out on the floor? You decide, is it going to be somebody, you know that Dyson Daniels had 5 steals the other night, and you're on the inside scoop of that kind of stuff. Whatever it is, you go get it. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance, so lineups stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Prize Picks, the best play to get real money actions. Join 10 million users and sign up today at Prize Picks. Download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen. The newsletter is out. You could have gotten Empty the Noggin. Today you'll get preview of the Warriors, recap Keyonte's night, whatever it might be that I think is important. It's all at LockedOnDaily.com. Plus, you get the national article from Katie Heindel. Mike Schreier's one yesterday was great. And you also get fantasy tips from Josh Lloyd. It's pretty cool. I'm really pleased with what we've done there. All right. We're going to do a little share screen. The Jazz played great the other night. And as the game went down, plays that cost them the game. And so we're going to try to take a look at those 4 plays and walk you through them. And honestly, I do this all the time. Because I think it has great value. And so, and I think it's, I think it's a great way to learn the game. And then, what ended up happening in this case is I'm looking at the plays and I'm like, I don't have like a very clear, definitive look to me of what is going wrong here. Like, this is not the most obvious thing to me. All right, let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you. There we go. All right. So we're tied at 116. Morant's going to go off to the left side, and there's going to be a baseline cutter. They're going to cut off Morant, and a baseline cutter is going to get open for a dunk. So here's Morant, comes off the pick and roll. The Jazz are going to switch this. It's a small pick and roll. So he's at the top of the floor. Audio people, let me know if I don't do a good enough job for you. If you're on audio, I'm going to try to make sure. So one thing you should know, just when we talk about it's on a pick and roll, if it's 2 guards, you're going to switch it. If it's a big, and they don't really have a big on the floor, but if Walker's involved, you're probably playing drop. So they're going to switch it. So it's Keyonte George is setting it, or Desmond Bane is setting a pick on Taylor Hendricks, who's guarding Ja Morant, and they're supposed to switch it. So here's the wrestling match between Keyonte and Desmond. Desmond sets the pick right at the top of the key. Morant turns the left hand down. Keyonte does a pretty good job of switching. Taylor recovers. Ja hesitates, steps through the lane. And this is pretty good defense. Walker Kessler is now hovering in the paint just like he's supposed to. And Lauri Markkanen is guarding Aldama, who's in the right corner, and Huff, who's kind of in the high quadrant on the left side. At some point, two guys have to guard someone because Walker has come off his man to stand in the restricted area and try to bother Ja Morant. And Ja Morant gets up, hangs in the air, hovers. Aldama back cuts behind Lauri Markkanen, reverse side layup. I mean, I don't know. Like, Lauri has got to, I guess, react to that back cut better by Aldama on the baseline and force the pass to go out to Huff. And Lauri was worried about the other pass because that's the answer. And probably needs to sag down a little deeper. But Lauri's job, once Morant gets in the paint, is to guard both these guys. And Aldama back cuts the baseline. Lauri's probably got to get to that. But Ja Morant's incredible. Just hanging in the air, throwing the pass at the last second, and he gets behind, and Walker and Key try to do their best they can to recover, but they aren't able to. So that's probably on Lauri. High-level team, big-time play. I'm guessing Lauri makes that play. Now they're going to do it to us again. This time, it's Morant at the top. Taylor Hendricks is guarding. They run up Marcus Smart, so they're trying to get Jordan Clarkson involved. Again, it's guard. They have Walker Kessler, who the Jazz want at the rim, in the far right corner, and Huff is there. So Morant goes away from the pick. Lauri comes from the far side to recover because you generally don't want to leave strong side corner. So Walker's in kind of bind. So Lauri does exactly what you think he should do. I'm guessing the assignment here of if anyone's got to do something is that Colin Sexton, who was hovering over to the middle of the court, Ja Morant's high left. He fakes a dribble to his right, comes off away from the pick left, and is now driving. Jazz are kind of screwed up on this because Hendricks was trying to get through the pick. He's now opened up a lane for the drive, and Walker's not in a position to really deal with it, and Sexton's over at the top of the key. So Morant drives. Lauri comes over and collapses on him beautifully. Walker sags down. Morant has nowhere to go. I think the only play here is that Colin Sexton has to dive all the way from the top of the key all the way down to the baseline to beat Aldama. And Ja Morant drives, hangs in the air, and finds Aldama on the baseline for the layup. Pretty good defense. Ja Morant's driving. He's into three guys at the rim. He's double clutching. He's going through them somehow. And he hits the pass to Aldama. And somehow Colin Sexton had to try in a span of less than a second, get from the top of the key where he's shading all the way down to Aldama on the baseline drive. Wow, that's hard. I think that's the answer on both those. But those aren't easy. Now, the only thing I would say that if a coach is listening to this, the Jazz did go through shoot-around that day, and it was clear while watching shoot-around today that the Jazz were worse team on the fact one of the twists that the Grizzlies have put into their offense is baseline cuts. And so they did meet about that today. But, you know, at 120, 118 with a minute 10 left and 18,000 people screaming, hard to remember about that. All right, here are two pick and rolls that I thought were really, really hard to guard. This is Marcus Smart is at the top on the pick and roll, and Ja Morant's coming with Taylor Hendricks. Jordan Clarkson's guarding Marcus Smart. This is going to be a switch. Ja Morant takes an angle, so it's clear Marcus Smart is high right. This is shoulders are important here. Clarkson's left shoulder is to the sideline. Morant is taking an angle that makes it look like pretty clearly he's going to come up on Clarkson's left shoulder, and that that Marcus Smart is going to drive to his right hand sideline side, not toward the middle. The way it looks. And he starts to set that pick, and Marcus Smart crosses over left to go down the middle of the lane. At that point, It's supposed to be a switch. Jordan Clarkson felt the pick. John Morant has his left hand on his back. Taylor Hendricks, who was thinking that Marcus Smart was going to go on the other side of the pick, now has to somehow try to get back. Doesn't get there in time. Marcus Smart gets to the rim and lays it up and in. I mean, these guys are good. If you watch this in full speed, Marcus Smart's just working the dribble to the top. And Morant's angle by which he comes up on the pick is so good. And then boom, crossover. Taylor is just late getting there. But again, I don't know how you're not late. Unless there's some communication that he somehow is going to tell Jordan Clarkson something. I've watched that. Like, I'd love to be here and like, oh, Taylor's got to do this. Wow. And here's the last one.
John Morant free on the pick.
And this is probably, the backbreaker. There's 42 seconds left. It's 122, 119. And now Jaws at the top. We're back to the Desmond Bane pick and roll. It's guard. They're going to try to get Keyonte switched onto Ja. Taylor Hendricks is defending. And the pick comes right behind. And Ja crosses over. And the pick, it's never really a pick. So Desmond is standing right behind Taylor Hendricks, right behind him. And then he slides out to the right. And this is verbal communication between Keyonte and Taylor. Because he never actually sets a pick. He just sloughs off it. So it's not clear whether or not you're actually supposed to switch or not. Because there's no pick here. Ja's just going one-on-one. Bane's in the area. Bane touches the side of Taylor, takes off. Taylor looks to his left to see Bane. Keyonte switches. So now Taylor relents, and then Ja Morant beats Keyonte to the basket. Keyonte, if he's going to switch, has got to guard his guy. That's a little bit of that one. But even the determination of whether or not you're switching was hard on that. I thought those were 4 early season good plays by guys who played together a lot that really were difficult I thought, just to figure out what the right play was on every single one of those. Maybe I'll talk to the coaches today and find out I was wrong. That those are easier. All right. Bunch of notes from the NBA and some preview thoughts on the Warriors. A scathing quote from Nikola Jokic. A lot of reasons I just feel super smart today, and I'm going to share them with you because I'm obnoxious. That's coming up next on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. They're the official sportsbook of Locked On. They're also America's #1 sportsbook. Why? Because it's just so much fun. So when you have a hunch in the middle of the game and you check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page when you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And that's right. When you get started with $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com on your first $5 bet. World Series today. The Yankees Dodgers are 1.5 favorite. The over-under's at 8.5 on that one. To hit a home run, Judge plus 200, Shohei plus 210, Stanton plus 285. NBA tonight, Jazz are a 3-point dog against the Warriors. Lakers are a 1.5 favorite against the Suns. New Orleans goes into Portland at a 5.5-point favorite. Milwaukee and 9.5-point favorites. And the biggest favorite of the day is Cleveland is Orlando going into playing Brooklyn at home at 11.5. That's all at FanDuel.com. All right, a few notes for you on today's game that I think will be interesting for you. The Warriors are interesting offensively. I think you guys probably know this by now. So last year, the Warriors were 28th in the league in transition. At the same time, they're the second fastest team to cross half court. And they're the fastest team to get into their first action. So that's something that Will Hardy's been talking about a lot, is our focus in transition defense and changing ends of the floors. The Warriors are the fastest team into their first action. What's interesting about the Warriors last year, I think a lot of this has to do with Clay, is they were 29th in the league in pace of playoff turnovers. So they're wanting to get into their first action that's part of their sets last year. I don't know if they're going to be different this year with Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson. I mean, they went 793 games with Klay Thompson. The other one on the Warriors you think of them as a spot up team, like a shoot. They're not. They're 28th in the league amount of spot up shots they take, 26th in the league amount of times a play ends in a pick and roll ball handler, 25th in the league ends in the pick and roll man, 26th in ISO. They just don't do any of the same things. They still play it totally. They're the number one off screen team in the league. They're the number one cutting team in the league. So those are the things you're dealing with tonight defensively. They're just very different than what you've dealt with all season long. They weren't the same last year. They're the 12th best catch and shoot team in the NBA. Because of Steph, they're the second best off the bounce three-point shooting team. And if we go to a clutch game, obviously Steph, has played 478 clutch games, and I don't think our rest of our roster has not combined to do that. One thing that will be interesting to watch with this team as they've changed is their corner three shooting. And also just like Klay Thompson took 543 catch and shoots last year. Like, who's taking those? Who's getting those opportunities this year? I think is going to be kind of a very big question on that. Worth noting on the defensive end, there's something that we'll talk about a lot. That who's the pigeon? And the pigeon is that you're at the shooting range and you're shooting and pull, pow, the pigeon. Okay, who's the bad defensive player you're going to have to shoot every night? Their bad defensive player is probably Brandon Podziemski. 1.08 on isolation defense, not great in a bunch of other spots. So let's see if the Jazz go shoot after Brandon Podziemski when he's in the ballgame. Nikola Jokic last night. We are not a good shooting team. I think except probably other than Porter and Murray, all of us are kind of streaky. Not streaky, but just average shooters. Wow. Yeah, probably true. And if night one is any indicator, my concern on Denver, who I have as a play-in team this year, not a playoff team, but a play-in team, having to win playing games to get into the playoffs, despite Nikola Jokic's genius, is because they don't have 240 NBA minutes. Russell Westbrook, I gave him it. He was terrible last night. 2 of 10, 1 of 6 from 3. He's so negative. Negative offensive players are so much more dreadful than you realize. But Julian Strawther, they're really relying on. He played 17 okay minutes last night. No rebounds, 1 assist, 6 points. Peyton Watson had a good year last year, but let's see. He goes 1 of 7. Dario Saric has been kind of in and out of the league. And Zeke Naji still can't get in a lineup. Like, they've been trying forever to get this guy to be in the lineup. He can't get in the lineup. So, so that's the first one, like, where I'm just going to feel really good about myself. This might not be true, but it's worth just give myself credit. Second one is I told you that I wouldn't have taken Jalen Williams as my most improved player of the year. I would have taken Chet Holmgren. Holy smokes. He looked incredible. He was the best player on the floor last night in that game. 102-87 win by Oklahoma City. Just awesome. 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals. Holy smokes. I also told you Zach Edey wouldn't win Rookie of the Year. I'm just giving myself all these credit points. And I also told you that I thought Mike Conley might be on the bottom end, and the reason for trading for Dante DiVincenzo and the Carl Anthony trade was to give Minnesota back in case Mike Conley has hit the end. Mike did a nice job of settling them late in the game last night, and he came in to close the game, but he played 27 minutes. He's 2 of 9 in both the first 2 games. That's a little disconcerting. The final one that was so interesting on Minnesota's 117-115 win over the Sacramento Kings is the Kings have this really interesting thing late in games. So DeMar DeRozan has made the most clutch baskets of anyone in the NBA for the last 5 years. 2 years ago, De'Aaron Fox was the clutch player of the year. And last year, Malik Monk scored the most points in the clutch. So who are they going to? In the final 4 minutes, Monk misses a 12-footer. Sabonis actually got fouled and missed 2 free throws. DeRozan gets a layup. Monk then missed 1 of 2 free throws. Then DeRozan missed 11-footer. DeRozan missed a 12-footer. Then Monk makes a shot. De'Aaron Fox doesn't get a shot till the 27-second mark. So he goes 5 minutes of clutch time without getting a shot, and then he misses the big shot of the night with 27 seconds left. So, and then Sabonis is just kind of in there. They didn't seem to run a lot for guys. Like, a lot of these were open plays or off a rebound, or just it wasn't like they were using one pressure point off another pressure point. I'm not sure Sacramento's really figured out what their late game plan on that is. So that jumped out at me last night. All right, the final thing I mentioned was reliability meter and tiers, and that's Walker Kessler and Taylor Hendricks. And I did this in reverse order. Sorry. This is the next step for these guys. Walker was great last night, and Taylor was great 2 nights ago. How reliable are they? So they've both shown like what they can do. How reliable are they? How much can we go into a night and kind of feel like, oh, 26 minutes from Taylor, he's going to have a spurt. By the end of the night, he's got 9.6 rebounds. He defended Steph Curry at times tonight, like pretty reliable. Walker, like he rebounded, he defended the rim, he did his pretty, like the reliability meter. Lowry's reliability meter is like at 100%. Colin Sexton's reliability meter is pretty damn high. That dude plays hard every night. Keyonte's reliability meter is like a EKG gone crazy. So where can Walker and Taylor get a reliability meter that looks consistent for Will Hardy? All right, I'll talk to you postcast tonight with Ron Boone. Monday from Dallas. I don't know about Empty the Noggin tonight. We'll put it somewhere, I think. Or maybe I'll wait for it'll be in the newsletter on Monday for you before the Dallas game. All right, have a great one. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Jazz and being a part of it. If you have not subscribed or followed the show, please do. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the show. You're awesome. To the everydayers that you are one of, be back with us on Monday and make sure you subscribe or follow the show. And if you have not subscribed yet, LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to get your Locked On Jazz newsletter on video. We send you the first ever 24/7 national sports channel. On audio, check out the new Locked On NBA.